My partner argues with me and tells me to be specific about what I want. I have learned that it's easier not to ask and just be strong. Story 1. My ex, who constantly needed my emotional support, always referred to me as her anchor and rock. She had a complete panic attack when I experienced a week of depression. It was actually much longer, but I only expressed it to her for 1 week before I stopped being vulnerable, realizing I wouldn't receive support from her. I don't think this is universal or how it should be. My ex was eventually diagnosed with bipolar disorder, and I suspect she also has narcissistic personality disorder. I realize now that the support I received early in the relationship was, in retrospect, love bombing. Once I understood this, I stopped taking it personally and recognized she was physically incapable of providing that kind of emotional support, so I moved on. Now I know what to look for in my next partner. Story 2. My favorite was when one of my exes told me, "It was just a dog. Stop being weak, grow some courage, and be a man." My dog had a seizure and died while we were playing, and I needed some support. I just wanted a hug and to be held for a while. Some people can be insensitive on a fundamental level. Story 3. That is a toxic relationship. My wife and I have been together for 10 years now, and I can honestly say that she is the most supportive partner I have ever had. The thing is, I do not have to ask for emotional support. My wife offers it unconditionally. That is what spouses are supposed to do. Support each other. Story 4. I just ask my wife to be present and not add to my responsibilities. She cancels social events or makes space to go without me. She delays conversations that she knows I don't want to have, allowing me to focus on the problems at hand, such as things to fix that aren't emergencies, discussions about the color and fabric of the new couch, any gossip or non-critical updates about the kids and vacation planning. She informs me of her plans and how long she will be occupied. If I need her, I can reach out, but otherwise, she lets me sit quietly in a room or tinker in the garage. Basic, simple intimacy is sufficient. There is no need for complex role plays, hours of foreplay, or romantic elements. Just straightforward, enthusiastic interaction is what I prefer. Story 5. The women in my life are very kind about those matters and are much easier to talk to than most men. They typically listen and respond without much judgment or harshness, making me feel understood, supported, accepted, and cared for. Story 6. I don't need it often, but when I do, it has been well received, and support has been given by the women I typically confide in. Story 7. My wife truly supports me. If I need time by myself, she takes care of our child, allowing me that space. A hug and a shoulder to cry on. She's always there, wearing a soft and water-resistant top. She offers affirmations quickly. These moments remind me to buy flowers. Story 8. She makes me hot chocolate or ice cream and watches one of my favorite shows with me. She struggled to provide emotional support when we started dating. We faced a common issue where I ended up comforting her whenever I sought comfort. It was challenging and required time and growth for both of us to work through. But I am grateful that I didn't just man up and allow that to end our relationship. Story 9. In my experience, and in the experience of many male friends I have spoken to about this, they often leave or remember it for the next argument to use it against you. Story 10. When I'm really mentally exhausted, I tell my wife, and there is no problem. But when I need to cry or have a breakdown, I prefer to handle it with my dogs. Story 11. I am not in a relationship, but I am good friends with 2 women. They are very different people, but in both friendships, there is a call me anytime rule that was established at some point. Interestingly, I am close enough with both of them that we tend to catch each other's down spirals before it reaches the point of needing that anytime call. This is just the tip of the iceberg of a strong relationship built over time. I have spent a lot of time with both of them, and mutual emotional trust emerged while we were getting to know each other as individuals. Story 12. My last girlfriend would get frustrated with me and tell me to see a therapist. That therapist, through asking a lot of questions, helped me realize she was selfish and I was better off alone. So now I'm alone. Story 13. It depends on the woman. In the past, I haven't felt emotionally safe, but with my current girlfriend, I feel truly supported. She is amazing. Story 14. What does emotional support look like to you? What would make you feel emotionally supported? Some of us want to know, but don't know what that looks like. Story 15. The good ones listen and may offer a hug, which is honestly all I need. The bad ones either fail to notice the obvious symptoms or try to one-up my problems with comments like, well, at least you don't. Sometimes they simply change the subject to avoid addressing the issue. Unfortunately, it is hard to find good people. Story 16. She has significantly more emotional intelligence, which you may not understand. Not only does she have the emotional intelligence to be unaware of what you are dealing with, but she also has the ability to express her feelings to you so that you can process them for her. Story 17. There is nothing wrong with her wanting specifics. She may think she is being supportive, so your request might be confusing to her. If you cannot articulate what you need to figure that out. Perhaps you lack the language to express your needs. If that is the case, you should check in with a therapist. They are great at that sort of thing. The dichotomy presented here, vague request for support versus taking responsibility, feels forced. Generally, when two people are in a relationship, it is not for the purpose of sabotaging each other. It is true that some women may feel uncomfortable when they see a man expressing actual emotions, but her asking for specifics does not sound like discomfort. It sounds like she is willing to help but does not know how. Story 18. It sounds like you're in a toxic relationship if asking for help leads to an argument. You both need to learn how to communicate calmly about your thoughts and feelings. If you don't have a child together, I would consider moving on. Story 19. In my experience, most people provide emotional support, just as I do for them. I have had one or two individuals turn it into a significant issue. I currently have little to no contact with them. Story 20. My wife says she no longer wants to be emotionally supportive. She states that it is not her job to play that role and that it is unhealthy for our relationship. Story 21. Women will leave you at your lowest. There are countless stories of women leaving their boyfriends and husbands during difficult times. Many claim they were an exception yet still left. This has happened to me as well. We need to stop entering relationships with women until they can treat us right. Story 22. I hold my boyfriend and comfort him. I try to make things easier for him by relieving his stress or finding other ways to help. Sometimes all he needs is to talk about it or cry it out. If you have a partner who manipulates your emotions, it's time to exit the relationship. My advice is to tell your partner what you need if that's what she is asking. I think that's a valid question. Sometimes when people need emotional support, it can mean different things. Some people want consolation, some want advice, and others just want to talk or have someone present in other ways. I assume your girlfriend is trying to understand what type of support you need at the moment. I encourage you to refrain from bottling it up or manning up. It sounds like she is trying to understand you and your needs. Story 23. I am fortunate to have an amazing wife who is very understanding of my feelings. I know I could be more open with her, which I know she would appreciate, but years of people telling me to toughen up has become deeply ingrained in me. Story 24. Every woman I have turned to for emotional support has reacted negatively, either stating directly that they do not want to discuss it or breaking down and needing my support instead of offering me support. Story 25. Everything you say to a woman can and will be used against you at a later time. It may be 5 minutes or 5 years, but it is coming. Story 26. My former partner told me I needed to be more resilient and stop relying on her desire for stability. You can guess why she is no longer in my life. Story 27. Generally, women tend to focus on their own needs rather than those of the man involved. Story 28. It might help to talk to a neutral third party like a therapist. They can assist you in understanding your emotional support needs, allowing you to approach the conflict with your partner with a clearer mindset. Story 29. I do not ask women for emotional support. You have been unhelpful in the past, and I do not trust you with such information. Story 30. It is a reality that men are often not encouraged to show emotions, as it may be perceived as a weakness in most cases. If you need support, seek it from your close friends rather than your partner. If it is affecting your health, seeing a therapist is a worthwhile option. Story 31. That's about right. Usually, this is how it goes based on my and everyone else's experience. They expect you to put up with all their emotional baggage, but the second you have an issue, they could care less and will turn it into an argument about themselves. Story 32. My wife supports me by allowing me to share my thoughts freely, responding with love. Throughout our relationship, I have felt comfortable sharing my deepest fears, including concerns about sexual violence, wishing for my mother to find peace from her cancer, and more. In each instance, she held me, hugged me, expressed her love, and gave me the space to process my feelings with her. Story 33. It's extremely difficult to find a woman who will respond well to that. Though admittedly, we are not innocent in that regard either. Paul Rudd is a national treasure. Story 34. Become defensive and distant. Use it against you in a future argument. Choose someone else. From my experience, this is true for most women. The remaining individuals, if you are fortunate to come across one, will be genuinely empathetic and try to help you, or at least assist you in seeking help. Story 35. My ex-wife was terrible at it and would almost always turn the conversation into something about herself. I have dated women who offer to listen, but I am not too sure about it. Story 36. I cannot say for a life partner, but I have a female friend who simply listens and is there for me if I need a hug, or just wants to be physically present to watch television or a movie if I am going through something. It goes both ways. If she needs anything from me, she will receive it without question. However, there is nothing I have ever had to specifically tell her to do. In any situation, she knows what will cheer me up, and I know what cheers her up. She understands me. The last thing she did for me when I was feeling down was come over, say nothing, take a beer out of my fridge, open it for me, and just sit next to me on the couch while I watched television and she scrolled through social media and vaped. I felt at peace. Story 37. All the women in my life actively express their openness and willingness to provide emotional support to men, encouraging men to seek help more openly. However, when needed, they often failed to support me. Many of them perceived me in the most negative sense of the word differently. One of the worst mistakes of my life has been opening up to women. My vulnerability has been used against me constantly. Even the smallest secrets and personal truths are not safe with them. I will never again make myself dependent on a woman. When I try to open up to my wife, all I receive in response is a reminder of how difficult her own situation is. Story 38. This is what your friends are for. They have empathy and will help you when you need it. I wouldn't recommend this with women. Story 39. My wife often retreats or changes the subject. She is not the one to provide emotional support. I haven't gotten into trouble for this yet, but I have some female friends I talk to. I recently spent a day talking with a coworker, and we shared a lot with each other. I cried a couple of times, but she didn't react. She waited for me to compose myself and we moved on. My wife knows I talk to other women. I work in a female-dominated profession, and I really don't have male friends. I am always open and honest with my wife about who I'm close to. I don't keep any secrets. I know that my wife also has male friends she talks to. She doesn't work with as many men as I do women, but she seems to gravitate towards and form friendships with men. We agree that having relationships with the opposite sex is healthy. Story 40. The lesson I have learned is to use a therapist, or if that is not possible, my dog. Sometimes I don't know why I'm feeling down, and with young children, the patience to listen to someone is rare. It's difficult to explain, but I feel that at least a therapist will listen to you with undivided attention and respect. My dog, in a strange way, also does that. He just sits there and listens. Story 41. Women often seek support from their husbands, but many struggle to provide it in return. Some women may react negatively when asked for support, using it against their partners during arguments. If you have a truly supportive partner, cherish her, as she is a rare find. Men learn from a young age to be strong and often find that opening up can lead to complications in relationships. Story 42. 2 days after my friend committed suicide, my ex-wife told me that I needed to get over it and stop being sad because it was affecting her and she couldn't handle it. Lesson learned. I am not allowed to be sad. Ever. Story 43. As a woman, whenever a man, whether it be a boyfriend, friend, or family member, asks for support, I offer to talk about it, troubleshoot together, sit down, or go for a walk. Nothing fills my heart more than knowing that I am someone they can turn to. Story 44. Lose all respect for you, belittle you, and tell you to be strong. It is actually a crime that they are allowed to raise sons. Story 45. My partner is the strongest person I have ever met. He has been my rock through many hard times and knew from the beginning that I don't have the easiest life. During these times, he has learned that being strong also means being able to cry and let go of all the bottled emotions when things get overwhelming. He would hide his hardships at first. Nowadays, he simply says he needs a hug, and I know that once his head touches my chest, the floodgates open. He does not need much, just affection, to be held and spoken to or listened to while he unburdens everything he has kept inside. That does not make him any less strong. Story 46. That is the type of unpaid emotional labor that has kept women oppressed for the past 1,000 years. Story 47. In kind words, they told me I was wrong and that feeling that way is foolish. Another ex told me she is not my mother. One of them was genuinely supportive but ended up being unfaithful with several other people. Needless to say, they are all exes. Story 48. As a man, you are expected to understand that you do not receive emotional support. Rather, you are the source of it. Things do not function well if you are not the foundation, if you are not the solid rock that remains steadfast despite the turbulence around you. You must be the reliable strength. When she asks you to express emotion or open up, she is not doing so in good faith. Any vulnerability may be used against you later. Story 49. My first wife would have undoubtedly turned my emotions against me, belittled me, or made it seem that it was my fault. We had a terrible relationship devoid of any meaningful communication. My current wife, who is amazing, always ensures that I am mentally healthy and that my emotional needs are being met, and I hope that I am doing the same for her. We often have a state of the relationship talk where we both ask how each other is doing on an emotional level and what we can do for each other to make things better, almost like self-therapy. I find that it cuts down on pointless fighting when we can address things that are bothering us before they turn into resentment. Story 50. I remember reading a book that discussed how women want men to open up, but when they do, most women feel disgusted and no longer view them the same way. Story 51. My wife is an angel, a source of emotional support for me when I need it, which is often. I only hope she sees me the same way. Story 52. My wife is an angel, a source of emotional support when I need it, which is often. I only hope she sees me the same way. Story 53. Consider the double mask. Story 54. Do not reciprocate. Push us away. Judge us. Try to give advice instead of listening. Use it as ammunition for future arguments. And sometimes actually provide emotional support. Story 55. She has to one-up me instead of just letting me process my emotions and making me feel worse for feeling down because it's not as bad as what happened to her. Story 56. I have a cousin who says she's on my side and wants me to have a support system. I have begged her several times to talk to me now and then, but she always ignores me. Story 57. Women do not provide emotional support to men. When men show that they need emotional support, women may leave, withhold intimacy, or criticize them. This behavior can be seen as emotionally selfish. Some women may focus solely on their own emotions and may feel resentment if attention is taken off their feelings, even momentarily. They may react negatively when shown a need for support. Women can be perceived as taking rather than giving. Observe how her behavior may change over the next month. She might become distant, initiate conflicts frequently, and show interest in other men. For instance, notice if she begins to reveal more skin on social media, as if to seek attention. Story 58. My women friends comfort me and talk to me. My ex and a few past relationships looked at me with disgust. Some women are great, while others conform to stereotypes. Story 59. Yes, contrary to what we are told, they lose their sexual attraction to us. It is best to shape your character into a strong, silent type and cultivate a deep voice. Story 60. They discuss it with 6 other women. Suddenly, I am followed by pitying eyes and hints of private conversations that only my wife was privy to. Story 61. Stay strong. You can let your male friends know you might be experiencing some emotional issues, but don't inform the women. Story 62. Varies from person to person. What I have found is that the closer I am to someone, the more likely my vulnerabilities will be used against me at some point in the future. When she is just a friend or someone I am on the path to being romantic with, openers are encouraged, I feel listened to and understood. The cynic in me suggests that from these patterns, if there is something to leverage or gain, people can play along and do everything they know to be the right thing to do. The moment they feel that you are committed, their guard comes down and their true colors show. Showing genuine concern and empathy seems to be the price paid for getting something from a man that she desires. Once she has obtained that, she may feel she no longer needs to pay that price. This doesn't apply to all women, though. In my opinion, the best women I have encountered have been the weird types, artsy, unconventional, free-spirited individuals. They are not playing society's games or relationship games, which is why I find them more genuine, even if I don't necessarily fit in with them. Story 63. Being brutally honest, the majority of women do not know how to support men emotionally, and I do not think most actually care to do so. They will often find a way to make it about themselves, use it against you during an argument, or worse, share it with their friends. It is best to keep your feelings to yourself, talk to male friends, or find a hobby or outlet to express those emotions. Avoid revealing significant emotional vulnerabilities to a woman, especially one you're in a relationship with. Small issues that do not truly stress you are okay to share, but in my experience, when going through something significant, many women provide little emotional support and may even make things worse. Story 64. I find it hard to open up, even to my wife of 10 years. When I do, she listens and is supportive. My wife is great. Story 65. What do women do when men ask for emotional support? In my experience, they tend to leave, laugh, or, if you are really vulnerable, take notes to use it against you later. Story 66. My wife listens and gives me support. If your partner doesn't, that is on you for keeping negativity around after the first time. Partner who wouldn't support me wouldn't be my partner. I think it is amusing that people say man up and advise against expressing emotions. It is truly ironic that men who struggle to articulate their feelings consider it a positive masculine trait to lack the ability to do what my children can. They are so afraid of rejection that they can't take a risk without a guarantee of acceptance. That is somehow considered strong. I would rather be alone and express myself freely than be so afraid of being alone or rejected that I hide away like a coward. Story 67. No matter what they say, that moment of weakness is permanently engraved in their minds, and it always resurfaces when they feel any doubt in their relationships. It changes how they perceive you, and they will never forget it or let it go. It permanently affects everything from that moment onward. Story 68. Unfortunately, I haven't had the best experience with this either. I find it easier to express my feelings to other men. I also have a therapist who is a woman. Story 69. Honestly, being specific about what you want is important to reflect on. I believe it can be somewhat unfair that women are rarely placed in situations where they need to emotionally support a man. When they ask how to do this, the response is often anger and withdrawal. Addressing what you need from her in moments of vulnerability is crucial. Leaning into your vulnerability can make your life easier in the long run, rather than retreating into complete stoicism. Story 70. Honestly, the women in my life react negatively. My own mother will immediately go into fix-you mode when I just need a hug and some empathy. My aunt makes it all about her and somehow positions herself as the victim. So even if I did nothing wrong, I still need to apologize and comfort her. Story 71. If your partner is hurting and needs to be comforted, step up and comfort them the way they want to be comforted. If you don't know how, comfort them as if you were comforting yourself. On the other hand, if you are the one who is hurt, try to express the kind of support you would like to receive. Story 72. I didn't exactly ask for emotional support, but whenever I expressed how I was feeling, it would basically end there. I wasn't heard. My ex would take whatever I was feeling and offer a multitude of reasons why it was my fault or defend herself, as if it weren't her fault at times. Story 73. I'm still recovering, as I like to say, from my last two long-term relationships. My pre-pandemic ex-partner ended our relationship for her first husband, who is a liar and manipulator. My last girlfriend is an alcoholic with attachment issues. It's been months since we broke up, and I thought I was healed enough to get back to dating, so I've been on the apps, as the cool kids say. I went on a date 2 weekends ago with a really great woman. She checks all of my boxes, 8 years younger and a total catch. She's gorgeous in the selfies we took with the flowers behind us. At one point, she said something that got me to talking about my ex, and before I knew it, I was choked up and wiping my eyes on the park bench. Not only did this lady sit and listen and say supportive things, she went out with me last Saturday, too. I didn't cry about my ex this time. Supportive women are out there, as are supportive men. If you need to talk it out, don't hesitate to find a friend, therapist, or even an online community to discuss your feelings. Story 74. I suppose it's different from person to person. I let him rant while I listen. I give him a hug and say I hear you. I am here to support and love him even when we are grumpy and old while we sit in our rockers watching the sunset. Sometimes that is all someone wants to hear, not ways to fix them. I then have a lazy day with a cozy blanket, his favorite snack and soda. He picks what to watch, lies his head in my lap, or we make forts to be silly. If he needs me to run errands, I will do these after I give him breakfast in bed the next day and let him go back to sleep or run him a bath to soak in to start his day. The hardest times for emotional support were after a family wake, as I had never seen him cry before. All I could do was hold him and let him cry all his tears out. I even cried with him as I was panicked to see him like this. I showered him down quickly and got him to bed with painkillers and water. Hopefully, you will find your support system and be able to be vulnerable. The whole point is to hold each other up in your time of need, and the laughter will come naturally. Story 75. Many things depend on the woman and the specifics. I have had plenty of negative reactions in the past because, frankly, the average person is not very emotionally savvy, neither am I. However, my current partner is amazing, and we don't have much trouble finding the right balance between venting, validating, and offering solutions as appropriate. Story 76. Almost all women know how to be supportive to other women. Even then, it seems they sometimes cause problems without realizing it. As I see it, the norm for two women talking is to have an emotion, validate that emotion, and celebrate their connection and similarities. The issue is that women are trained from a young age, and throughout their lives, to avoid conflict and to share emotions primarily with other women. Men, on the other hand, are inclined to handle emotions differently. Anger is acceptable for them, while other emotions often are not. Someone has to be the stable one. So when women say, "Open up for me," they are really just expressing a desire to connect and asking you to share your emotional state so they can mirror it and create closeness. However, they may not be prepared to handle your emotions. In fact, they might have a belief system that suggests your emotions are negative, which could lead them to view you unfavorably. I'm sorry to hear about your situation. Story 77. The last woman I dated would tell me to be vulnerable, but when I tried, she was not there for me and only related my situation to her own problems. So I closed off, and who knows if I will ever actually be vulnerable with a woman again. It just seems like it's best not to go there. Story 78. My mom, my sister, my grandma, and many of the other married women in my friend group will happily provide their husbands with emotional support when they need it. Any woman who is unwilling to support her male partner emotionally is too emotionally immature for a relationship. Story 79. My mom is usually supportive, but the generational disconnect makes me feel like I can't really count on her for the specifics. She's there to hug, but I can't really talk to her. I don't have a girlfriend right now, but I have some close female friends. The one I'm closest to just oversimplified my problem when I was trying to discuss it in a group chat we share and told me I was overcomplicating my feelings. Story 80. My wife gets upset when I am upset, and I have to comfort her. It works in the short term. I forget about myself because I want to make her feel better. But in the long term, it is not healthy. Story 81. In my experience, my ex-wife would cry, making it seem like it was her fault. I would end up comforting her and providing emotional support while whatever was bothering me was pushed aside and kept quiet to avoid upsetting her further. Then she accused me of not opening up enough. Story 82. Only 4 times out of hundreds has it not resulted in negative consequences within the first 12 months of asking for support. 4. My utmost standard for a relationship is that if I am doing everything I can to provide, protect, and lead, I expect that a setback will not disrupt the course of our connection. If she chooses to use that against me, I will simply walk away permanently, as I understand that is the consequence when I face a crisis and being strong backfires. Story 83. It's pointless. In this case, men are victims of patriarchy as women expect us to be tough. We men should get better at opening up to each other. Story 84. When I am in rough spots, she treats me like her own baby son. She encourages me and tells me, "Good job, my boy. I love you, my dearest boy." She also cooks my favorite meal. Story 85. They run. They just don't bother imagining anything worse or more intense as they go through life. They refer to it as trauma dumping when they open up, thinking it will be like talking to their best friends about their problems. However, they have no idea and refuse to learn. Story 86. They dump you. Don't act weak. Women find it very unattractive. Women experience various phases of vulnerability. They become pregnant, they have menstrual cycles, and they may display less upper body strength. They are looking for a partner who is strong, not additional weakness. Story 87. The magic phrase is, "I'm not going anywhere." A man does not want to, above all else, fear that he will be abandoned or worse due to his weakness. Story 88. They lose all confidence and respect for that man. He is often seen as a whiny individual who is far from attractive. A man should never go to his partner for emotional support. While she may provide some, her opinion of him will be permanently altered, and he will struggle to regain that respect. It's a zero-sum game. Instead, he should seek consolation from a male friend or a family member, never from a romantic interest. The best a man can do is communicate that he needs emotional support and is going to see friends or family for it. Even this might be too much for her. If she asks questions, he should not be deceived. She is unlikely to be happy with the answer and may take it personally or judge him. It's often not their fault. It's just a tendency that some people have. I acknowledge that there may be rare instances where a woman provides perfect emotional support without judgment, but such cases are exceptional. Story 89. I can usually tell when something is bothering my husband, and I make sure he knows I'm here if he needs to talk or unload, whatever that may look like. Need a drink? Go for a walk? Cry? I'm here for you, love. Story 90. Get a big kick and use whatever you tell them against you. It is unreasonable to expect emotional support from women. That is a one-way street. Story 91. One of the greatest mistakes a person can make is to show their partner how vulnerable they are by asking for help. This often damages the relationship, and we have seen this happen repeatedly in discussions. Story 92. In my experience, women want men to feel vulnerable but are rarely willing to be vulnerable themselves. This creates a kind of false support that often results in a be a man attitude. Story 93. Make some friends who will enjoy a drink and relax with you while you vent. Sounds like you could use some support. In some relationships, it's about listening, holding you, and reassuring you that everything will be okay. At other times, it's about helping you create a plan, allowing you to feel more confident or less anxious about the situation. Sometimes, the classic remedy of a full stomach and a relaxed state truly works wonders for your mood. Story 94. The women in my life are much better at this than my male friends. My wife allows me to be completely open and always supports me through whatever I am experiencing. My female friends are great listeners who also follow up thoughtfully to see how I am doing. Story 95. People need to find better friends and partners. In the past, I have opened up to friends who have been very supportive, as friends should be. While my friends are not my therapist, having a mutually supportive friendship is important. I open up to my fiancée. If I couldn't, then I would be with the wrong person. She has been extremely supportive. Recently, a close family member was diagnosed with a serious degenerative disease. I can't imagine not discussing it with her. Story 96. I think you need to talk about it. A while ago, my boyfriend and I had a conversation because we used to fight about it. When he needed support, I told him everything would be okay and that it was okay to feel sad. When I felt bad, he used to tell me that it was what it was and that I just had to keep going. That did not make me feel better at all, and later I found out that what I told him only exasperated him, making him feel worse. So we talked about how to help each other when we're feeling down and what works for us. We switched roles. He now tells me everything will be okay, and I encourage him to push through. It can be annoying and exhausting to discuss this when you expect the other person to know. But the truth is, people aren't mind readers. So asking, "What do you need from me?" is actually a very healthy approach in my opinion. Story 97. I have learned that it is easier not to ask and just be strong. Why don't you tell her what you want? Story 98. What should they do? They should be proactive and contribute meaningfully. Story 99. Every time a man has done this, whether I know him or not, it has become a club used against him when others disapprove of something. I am unsure if it is intentional, but when they are upset for any reason, it is used as an excuse to say that he is not a man. Story 100. This is making me sad. I want to hug my boyfriend when he's down. I want to listen to him and reassure him. What kind of childhood did you have if you think anything else is an acceptable response from someone who loves you? Story 101. I told my wife that she can stop complaining about my drinking or I could stop drinking and she could listen to my problems. I quit drinking for about a week. At least she stopped complaining about my drinking. For the record, just to add some context, I am literally a happy drinker. The only reason I drink is that it makes me feel happy. Having known some aggressive individuals with severe alcohol issues, I feel like I hit the jackpot with that one. But I didn't really start drinking until I was in my late 40s, so I figure my drinking is a lot different than most people's. Story 102. Yes, this is better. No, you should not ask her for emotional support. Women with men who need emotional support view their partners as weak, lose attraction, and end up divorcing them. Story 103. I am approaching 23 years of marriage, and I believe there are two main areas this could fall into. She supports me. This is true for the vast majority of situations. She is a good woman, and I am a fortunate man. She has helped me grow into a better person in many ways, and I am very grateful. In a small percentage of situations, I seem to trigger a defensive reaction, and she becomes unhelpful and counterproductive. I suspect this occurs when I undermine her feelings of safety and being provided for, although it is likely more nuanced than that. The general idea is that if my needs conflict with her sense of support, she cannot support me. She first needs to regain her own footing. People are complex, and this is an oversimplification that overlooks simple scenarios. We all have bad days and can fall short. However, in general, a partnership should involve both individuals doing their best to support each other and offering grace when necessary. Story 104. Listen, be supportive, and try not to turn it into a scenario where I need to provide emotional support to you. Story 105. My most recent ex would say something like, "I'm just too tired to talk," and then discuss her problems for another hour. Story 106. Meanwhile, I have the opposite problem. I have to straightforwardly ask my boyfriend what the issue is, or he will never tell me while I worry that I am the problem. The problem is all his. He just does not like to talk about it unless expressly asked. He often finds discussing an issue that only involves him to be pointless and redundant. His neurodivergence may contribute to this line of thinking. However, it is immensely reassuring once I do find out what is wrong. As a very anxious person, discovering that I am not the issue and understanding the actual problem allows me to better support him. Story 107. I am a woman. I ask my boyfriend how his day was and how he is feeling today. If he seems stressed, I offer to give him back scratches. I inquire if he is feeling stressed or upset and if he wants to talk about it. If he does, I try to determine whether he wants to vent or if he is looking for advice. I ask him how I can help, but he often has trouble coming up with anything. Sometimes, I feel helpless in supporting him beyond just listening. These are not problems I can resolve for him, so I focus on lifting other burdens. When times are really tough for him, I make sure to take on more chores to help lighten his load. I typically lack the energy to cook most days, and he usually handles that. So, when he is completely burnt out, I purchase more prepackaged meals that pair well with roasted vegetables. Story 108. Please don't just man up. It's absolutely okay to show a little bit of your heart. I would give anything for my husband to tell me how he's feeling besides the usual "I'm good," especially since he has his own mental health situation, which I won't disclose here. I am usually the one who's more open about my mental health issues and difficult days. What I often feel is overwhelming. It's not just a lot of emotions, but too much to carry emotionally and too much to handle or love. Even though I hope, he loves me as much as I love him. It's not about some strange quirk of seeing him upset. I want to support him emotionally the way he has supported me in the past. Sometimes I feel lacking as a partner because I can't be that for him, but he has never opened the opportunity for me to do so. In our past conversations, he has always said he prefers to keep his mental health quiet and fuss-free. He doesn't enjoy being the center of conversation regarding his mental well-being, and I have to swallow my pride and understand that's how he needs me to support him, by not pushing him. I hope that makes sense. It takes time. We've been married for 5 months and together for 3, and I still feel like there's so much to learn about being together. Alas, we can only do our best. I have 3 younger brothers and an emotionally unavailable father, so I have always felt more sensitive toward men's emotions. I hate to see a man upset. Not because they're not strong enough, but because it hurts my heart to see someone go through a tough time, as if it were my own brother. I hope you get through it. Story 109. I always want to support my boyfriend because he has always supported me, but he is somewhat emotionless. He approaches everything so logically that he does not get hurt by things or process them emotionally quickly enough to need support. I still try. I ask how he is doing, give him space when he is processing, and listen when he wants to talk things through. However, I wish he would lean on me a little more, too. Story 110. If my partner or male best friend asks me for emotional support, I usually first listen and then ask them what they would prefer from me. Solutions or being heard. I have the urge to provide solutions, to spring into action and find a way to resolve their problem. For example, I used to research therapists for my best friend so he wouldn't have to expend energy on it and could just book the best one for his situation. On the other hand, if they prefer support, I sit with them, hug them, and sometimes cry with them. I try to work on not being emotional, but it's difficult when I see someone I love hurting. If the situation lasts longer, like when my boyfriend had issues at work with people he cared about being laid off, I try to take on more responsibilities at home and plan small things to cheer him up. I would go out to buy meringue cookies, as he loves them, or suggest watching movies from our list, just to brighten his day. Story 111. I once saw advice suggesting that when someone is upset, the other person should ask, "Do you need a listening ear, some space, or a distraction?" I thought this was a great way to initiate communication when someone is feeling down. This approach allows both individuals to understand each other's needs better and respond accordingly. Personally, I would ask what they prefer and then follow their request. Story 112. If I were to get close to someone, I would make sure I hug them so hard I squeeze the depression out of them. However, this is probably reserved for when I am married for religious reasons. All in all, I would listen. I probably won't have any good advice, but I would listen. I am pretty young myself, so I can't really be a good support for those older than me, but if they are younger, it's easier. I am now basically being my little cousin's mentor in the things he doesn't know how to deal with, such as problems with friends, whether he should stay with a problematic friend or leave, and so on. Listen, be there for them. If you can, give advice. If you can't, then that's okay. Just let them know you're here for them no matter what. Story 113. When my partner is upset, I hold him, wrap him in a blanket, and offer him tea. I ask what he needs from me: an ear, validation, or advice. Supporting him emotionally brings me satisfaction as well. Your partner has things to work through. Story 114. If you haven't mentioned it in your previous comments, could you specify what kind of emotional support you need and how you communicate it when you're having a hard time in your life? I would be curious to read as specific a description as you are willing to provide. Did she at least ask you this? Story 115. What do you need, honey? These could be a couple of questions that some women ask their partners. Being there and listening, really listening and not interrupting, helps. Men need emotional support just as much as women do. Story 116. I try to be someone he can vent to. I think that men do not get that enough. Like you mentioned, they man up. I listen when he needs to share his thoughts, and then I provide any insight or advice that I can. If I do not have anything to say that would help, I express my wish that I could. I also offer physical support, as his stress is often related to having too many responsibilities or family members who rely on him. He is not one to ask for help, but I offer it anyway. Regardless of gender, sometimes all we need is to know that we have someone there to help, even if we do not take the offer. Story 117. My experience with women is that they often prioritize their feelings and may not reflect on their own contradictions. Most women want others to understand their needs or problems, but they can sometimes come across as entitled due to their emotions. This is why I struggle to relate to heterosexual women. I find this behavior particularly challenging. Story 118. My ex from last year had a breakdown almost every day. I called her at work and mentioned that I felt off. I wasn't in the right state of mind, and she seemed indifferent. Any other time I confided in a woman, it turned into a change of subject. I learned to keep my feelings to myself. The women I have encountered seem either to tune you out or appear insincere when they try to show concern. Story 119. Well, first of all, I don't know any men who would ask me for emotional support, and I'd like to keep it that way. But if it did happen, I would make an honest attempt to help with the limited skills I have and my limited understanding of men and their emotions. I would definitely refer him to a therapist and insist that he go, as I don't have the tools he needs. Story 120. My boyfriend was diagnosed a few years ago with bipolar disorder, paranoid tendencies, and dissociative identity disorder. I fully understand this condition as I also have bipolar disorder. Thankfully, we have only experienced really bad days together once or twice. Usually, we support each other. The most important thing is that we promise to always take our medications as prescribed. Many people with mental health issues start feeling better and quit taking their medications. To me, witnessing a man showing his vulnerability, even crying from a movie, demonstrates that I have a loving, compassionate, and caring partner. This vulnerability makes our connection stronger. Story 121. Are you interested in hearing from women? As a woman, I approach my friends by listening and asking if they are looking for solutions or if they just want to vent. If any friend is asking for more than I can provide, I suggest they might benefit from counseling, which I have found helpful over the years. I also recommend books and podcasts that may assist with their specific issues. If your partner is inquiring about what you need, that's a positive sign. She wants to understand the kind of support you're seeking. You can communicate whether you just need to vent or if you want help brainstorming. Share your desire for non-sexual intimacy and comfort, such as cuddling, hugging, or taking a long walk together while holding hands and enjoying each other's company. Reflect on what would help you and discuss it with her. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.